is Texas. The issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Rugen in Houston.
And I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas. The issue is.
Republican lawmakers in Texas delivered on a promise Governor Greg Abbott made to send more aid to funding a border wall and also tightening border security. SB4, which is very controversial, would allow any officer in the state of Texas to arrest someone they think entered the country illegally. I spoke to North Texas Representative David Spiller, who carried the bill in the House.
States have every constitutional right, authority, and ability to secure their borders. That is a right that we have in Texas, and I would suspect in other states as well. That's not in conflict, in my opinion, with the U.S. Constitution.
SB4 has been controversial since you guys have rolled this out. Why do you not see it as something that should be controversial?
I understand the arguments that folks on the other side are making. I'm sympathetic to that. It's just a policy decision and approach as to how we want to tackle the problem of illegal immigration. The Biden administration has absolutely failed and refused to secure our border, to protect Texas, to protect our nation, and will not enforce current immigration law and policy. And so it is incumbent now for Texans to step up and protect Texas.
The bill, if it becomes law, would empower local and state law enforcement to, if they suspect someone who crossed the border illegally, they'll be able to arrest them and then they will go before a judge. Do you think this can open the door to racial profiling?
SB4 is very specific and talks about illegal entry. If an officer would have to have probable cause to believe that someone crossed into our state from a foreign country illegally at someplace other than a lawful port of entry, and if so, that's a Class B misdemeanor. That is currently under federal law now. So there would have to be probable cause for the officer to do that. So you have an officer making that determination, then you would take them to an independent magistrate who would also confirm and determine if they believe that existed. And if so, a prosecutor could move forward with that case, or the people under this version of the bill would have the option to say, look, yes, and I'm in lieu of further prosecution, I'm willing, if you'll take me back to a port of entry, I'm willing to go back to the country from which I came.
Isn't this just going to aid in overcrowding prisons, and who pays for that? How will SB4, if it becomes law, I mean, it's going to possibly dramatically change at least our southern county jails, right?
I think most people will opt into, instead of being incarcerated in a jail or a facility or a detention facility, would say, look, I'm here. Yes, I got here illegally. Yes, I don't want to be prosecuted and sit in a jail. I'm willing to go back to the country. And so those people would not be incarcerated. They would be detained temporarily until they get to a magistrate, but then the magistrate would determine the method and manner in which they're transported back to the port of entry, and they would return. So that's not really resulting in further incarceration. As a matter of fact, it would, I think, could be less incarceration than what we have right now, where we're prosecuting people for criminal trespass. That's generally the only tool, unless an officer sees something more serious as an on-view offense, something of a felony or something else. Generally, the only tool that they have now is to prosecute people under criminal trespass.
Do you think there are enough exceptions and carve-outs where this isn't just a law that will just round up people who law enforcement may think entered the country illegally?
We don't want schools to be a place where we're arresting people, or anything like that. So public or private primary or secondary schools, churches, synagogues, places of worship, places of, in fact, I even expanded from what I did before under hospitals to have healthcare facilities, as that term was defined under law, which is much broader, and saying, look, if someone needs medical attention or medical care or healthcare in any way, we don't want to inhibit that in any respect.
Rudy Koski, SB4, in one word.
I'm going to take a word that the representative used and modify it, and my word is conflicted.
Greg Rugen.
Stephen, lots of options here, but I'm going with defective.
All right, the Fox Texas Trio will have much to discuss on the other side of this break.